That was out. Yeah.
Okay, so we should be all set if anybody wants to call in. I don't know if you saw the email that Ann Redfield may call in because she's got COVID.
Oh,
she will not be here in person. Okay.
And you saw my notice.
Hey, Claudia.
You saw my notice. We got subject to town meeting approval. We got the $7,000 grant. And then the other one, $2,500 is subject to board of selection, which is fine because we all want to get on the same page. I don't have to.
And we didn't get
And
but
then,
I already knew that.
Yes.
but when you come back, and you and I had talked about how affordable house, open space is not going to hold the board. Find the 100,000.
And David Kelsey told me face to face that just come back to us. That
$2 million, yeah, I'll come back to you. I remember the last time.
Hi,
hello, Claudia. How are you?
At the beginning of the year, you mentioned to me that it's here or Champlain North, and I don't know what.
It's a nice looking sweater.
My wife doesn't like it.
It's spring. It's colorful.
I didn't take it. You didn't have maybe an answer. Suzanne has
in a way that I take care or something that I suggest. So he's overlooking that too?
He's the land steward. He does everything but McCullough.
Okay.
But there's nothing wrong with a second set of eyes on it. And if he walks on Monday and a tree falls on Friday, the more people that alert him. And I think it's good because he's away a lot. And so it makes you familiar with it. So no, there's absolutely no problem.
The tree is more or less this diameter. I can cut it with just a hand.
That's fine.
That's fine because I don't want to frame the tree.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of.
We're not allowed to.
But if I will take.
I don't see any issue.
If I can.
Just glancing at it. Because I've been through.
Give a shout. One of us can come along. Sometimes it's good when you're.
I'm going to take a second look.
Okay. But if you know.
Yeah.
Sometimes you move the trail too, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
But is this, you think these are horse people or?
I don't know.
I have absolutely no idea.
We do have a quorum if you guys want to start.
Well, let's give it a few minutes.
Give it a month. Yeah, I would.
What is Bruce doing over there? So,
we have a public today, or why is so many people?
I don't know. Stay tuned.
Oh. It's going to be fun.
I never know.
Yeah.
I don't see, I was looking for land trust. Maybe they're calling in?
I don't know. Could be.
I think so.
And there must be.
Oh, Martha Wayne just came in.
McCullough relatives.
I don't know. I was going to briefly, when we get to that point, talk about McCullough for a little bit, talk about how only one farm split between the three siblings. They had the Morgan horse farm, just like 2 minutes of, and then we bought it. We have the nature conserves an easement on all. It has to be reviewed if we change anything to kind of lay it out, and then let the Tevases start, and then open the floor. Okay, so just so. So where's the
No.
1, 2, 3, 4.
I'm packing.
You leaving tomorrow? Yeah.
Maine or?
No, we're going to
Charleston?
South Carolina. Charleston, South Carolina. We've got a car full, and I had to put the bike rack on the car. And my anxiety level.
It's so beautiful down there.
Yeah.
I've never been to Tybee. You going to Tybee?
How you doing, Greg? Good. Yourself?
It's an island right outside Mount Pleasant, over that whole area.
I'm not sure the name of the place.
And go in the marketplace and get Callie's biscuits.
Yeah, there's a farm stand too.
Well, there's a big like brick market, and you go through, and they got all the names.
So excuse me, Greg, just straight. I only vote.
So we call it.
All right.
Regular member. There aren't enough regular members, right?
I think you could be. We have a today. We have a quorum here, so I think.
But that's the policy.
Past 5 o'clock, so. So I'm going to call the meeting to order. And first order of business is approving the minutes.
Do you have it? Yeah.
Do I have a... No? We lost one of our members. Oh, here comes another member.
Andrea, join us.
Join?
You want to join us? Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of March 9th? Okay.
And the 16th. And the 16th. That was the sidewalk.
Right. So,
I motion.
okay, I hear a motion. I hear a second.
I second.
Okay, any discussion on the minutes or changes or anything?
I would just like to make a comment that the reason there are 2 minutes is, one is the minutes for our meeting, and the second is a number of Open Space Commission members attended a site walk with inland wetlands, and because there was a quorum on that walk, we were required to post minutes per FOIA. It was basically a pro forma document.
Okay, so first the March 9th minutes. No other changes or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, for March 16th, which was the one for the site walk, which we attended, or I attended because I'm on the Wetlands Commission, but the others attended because the town of Lyme owns property adjacent to the property that was being looked at by the Wetlands Commission. So do I hear a motion to approve those minutes?
Claudia, you want to?
I can't because I
I to accept those minutes.
I'll second it.
Okay. All right. Moved to second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Good. Thank you. That's, we have a land steward's report
I got an email from Peter North, and he says that he has nothing to report, but he does have concerns regarding the Bartholomew flooding, which we're going to address a little later.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So that was his only.
Okay, yeah, I saw that he thought that the trails looked like they were in pretty good shape. I mean, everything is, it's high springtime and the leaves aren't out yet, so it's pretty wet out there. And other than that, I think things are...
It's a similar problem, minor problem, but at Champlain North, there is a place that you have to go out of the trail.
Yeah.
But I think it's temporary.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I just want to mention to the public, we do have an email, openspace@olct.gov. And so if you see something that needs attention on our trails, feel free to email us, and we'll get right to it. We'll find somebody to help us out. But feel free, if there's something down, we'd like to be aware of it. Number 4.
Good. Existing business, we have some updates. The first one is on the McCulloch property.
Okay,
so
so
take that,
please.
begin with.
We've been waiting to do the pond spillway, and which we have now wetlands approval, and the weather is better. So I saw Wayne Abrahamson and Jim Mildrum this morning, And so we're going to meet over there Friday, and we hope to start that in the near future. I just want to mention, while I'm talking about McCulloch, and the trails seem to be in good shape. Everybody seems to be maintaining them, and one of our land stewards, Jim Mildren, his wife passed away recently, and we want to convey our condolences to him and his family, and mention to the board that there's not going to be a service, but they asked for contributions in her name to the Connecticut Humane Society. So if afterwards, we can't use town funds, but afterwards, if you'd like to make a contribution, we're going to send a card from the Open Space Commission. Jim's been on the farm since he was, I think, 15 or 16, and it's just amazing what he and Wayne also do on the farm, and we really appreciate everything. So just wanted to make you aware of that. And I don't have anything else for McCulloch.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. On the Bartholomew property, we've had some water issues. We did have a modified, what's called a beaver deceiver, installed because the beavers had plugged a culvert under Button Ball Road, and which backed up, creating a problem on the one trail into the Bartholomew property. So we had
Also flooded the road.
a flow regulation device put in at the culvert so they couldn't get out the culvert and plug it up. But now they've seem to pack the device with mud and leaves, and so we're going to have to do some maintenance on that. But also, we had an application to the Wetlands Commission that was there were two possible bridge crossings on the trail where it's always been wet, but it's a little higher now, and we had backed one of the designs, but the Wetlands Commission did not agree, and so but they have tentatively agreed to give us a permit on the second design, which is the wooden bridge.
Okay.
So I think we're ready to have Allie in her.
And I know that she just got submitted it for approval to the Girl Scouts, and I think there may be either she's waiting approval or she got approval.
Okay, but we have a tentative approval from the. They would like to have a little. Dan Brett said he'd like a little more detail on the bridge design because they want to make sure that it's solid and they're not going to be any.
So you'd like me to reach out to them?
Yes, if you could. Otherwise, I gather that the Bartholomew property, the trail is in fine shape, and it's a single loop trail, so there isn't a lot of work to be done. And
just wet.
It is. The beginning of it is, it's always been low and wet, but.
So they need to reach out to Dan, or will he be reaching out to them?
If they could reach Dan and just come up with, supply him with a little more detailed design on the wooden bridge, because that's what they thought would be acceptable to the Wetlands Commission.
Okay.
So, do you want to take Earth Day?
Yes, I'm just going to mention that Earth Day is the 22nd of this month. I know the Land Trust has an event scheduled. Oh, milkweed, that's what it is. We have nothing scheduled, but we will probably put something in the selectmen's letter and then maybe to Limelight, just encouraging people to go out and enjoy Earth Day, recognize its importance.
What time is that, Suzanne? 2 to 4?
Unless somebody else has some suggestions for Earth Day.
We had talked about doing some type of vernal pool, just walk or whatever, but it depends who would have to basically do that, to lead that. Are you are going to be not?
I'm away.
Yeah. What was your schedule, Mike?
Yeah, I'm going to be away probably. Is the 22nd of Sunday? No, really it's before that. I'm going to be away between the 21st and the 24th probably.
Okay.
But I'd be willing to do that. I know where vernal pools are on Champlain North.
I was just talking to someone this morning and talking about another vernal pool on McCulloch that I just thought you might want to check out. So
My goal is to walk all of them. I just haven't been on the commission.
The 22nd's on a Friday.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think then we'll just put a notice.
Yeah.
May 22nd.
Pardon?
May 22nd, right?
April.
Oh, April.
April. But we have a number of events coming up. We have Arbor Day, we have Trails Day, Midsummer, National Public Lands Day, and National Hiking Day. So I'm sure we'll have lots of opportunities to reach out and do something.
Hiker's Happy Hour.
On the Hiker's Happy Hour, we have the date set. We host with the Old Lyme Land Trust and the Old Lyme Inn 4 of these. It's the first Wednesday of May, June, September, and October. And I think the Land Trust starts out, you're doing Jericho, aren't you? And so they're going to meet in the parking lot at Jericho.
Yeah, we're going to have attendance and make sure, start there for an hour.
Okay, and then we go back. It's 4:15, and then we go, it's about a 45-minute hike usually, and go back to the Old Lyme Inn, and they have half-price happy hour, usually the first hour, and they put out snacks. They're very nice. Sometimes there's music, depends on the weather. Sometimes a little, the outdoor heaters are going. And we're doing it the first Wednesday in June, and we're going to do Champlain South. I think we decided on the White Trail, that one that goes down to Boggy Hole.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's as far as we've gotten.
Same time?
Same time, 4:15 and then 5. So, and there'll be notices out in the selectmen, and we'll put notices out and about. So, but we encourage all of you to join us. If you can't hike, come for the happy hour. Or if you want to hike and not come for the happy hour, that's fine too. So, but welcome to everybody, and please join us. And then we also have Midsummer Festival, which is July 30th. I know I'll be out of town then. So, and we've talked to the Land Trust, and we've reached out to the Academy, and we're going to get 2 or 3 booths there. And we're going to have one, you're going to have one, and there's something, we're talking about doing something in between, possibly the Raptors, or? Okay, so it's still early, but we hope you come to Midsummer and visit us at our booth, or if you want to volunteer, help out, either the Land Trust or us, we're always looking for volunteers.
Amanda?
Yes.
I propose, I have an insect collection, and I was thinking maybe for the Midsummer Festival, if I have just a space like this, I have a collection to show, but maybe we can focus on bees.
Well, I think we're going to we definitely have some exhibits left. We'll continue our beaver ones, I thought. We're going to, I think Ann wants to do one on the ferry landing, which would be appropriate. Usually we get from the library. They do a backpack with kids' books and all that stuff. In the past, we have done, Balix has given us plants and we can sell them, and we do a pollinator path along. So I think we need to get maybe a committee up to, if anyone would.
Yeah, I think it would be, I think it would be interesting to see Claudio's collection. There's room on it.
It's not only to see the collection, but also the importance of insects in general in the cycle, in the,
It might be nice to put your table next to the pollinator garden that we do.
That would be perfect.
And we usually have tent. Gary, is your tent still available? Remember your pop-up little tent thing?
I think it turned over last summer.
Oh, bits of dust. Okay, we may have to go look for another.
Buried in a snowstorm, that's what happened.
Okay, but we were able to put 3 large, tables in there.
Yeah.
So I think, and then we have a couple of posters and things, so I think we need to kind of just, we don't have to do the library, I mean,
Yeah.
but we need maybe a committee to kind of work on that. So, I don't know, do you want to head the committee and then you can work with people?
Well, yeah, I don't know if there's anybody that wants to help also, but I can try.
Yeah, and I'd be glad to work with you.
If you can provide me, the people I have to talk
the first
with.
is to get the tent. Does anybody in the audience have a tent we can borrow?
I have a tent, this white tent.
Yeah, just that little
for the
canopy,
party.
yeah.
It's probably 6 by 6 or 8 by 8.
I think we need, but well, let's look into it
Yeah,
another time, and then we'll report back to next meeting. How about that? Okay. So Claudio and I will work on the Midsummer. And if anyone else wants to volunteer, on affordable housing, we've been working with the Affordable Housing Commission to the 2 affordable housing lots we got from the McCulloch purchase, and we've had them surveyed, we've had them tested, so they're buildable lots, and the Affordable Housing Commission is working with that, and we're meeting with them end of April, and then going to the selectmen and to talk about that. So people are away, so we'll report back at the next meeting what happened on that. Ferry landing, I think we send out a brochure on ferry landing. Is Ann, are you on the phone?
I don't think so. So she said to express her regrets, and she did do a report, which we so.
And I just also want to mention that we did, Evan and Ann and Greg did a presentation to the Board of Selectmen for funds, and we asked for $7,000 to take the Eklund Pond, make it Ferry Landing Wildlife Refuge, and that was going to be funds to start that project. And we were, subject to town meeting approval, we were granted the $7,000 for that, so which is very exciting. I think Fred's worked on that with, and I think you were, I think all of us have kind of taken a little spin working on that, but, and
just as an explanation, and for those in attendance and if anybody else is on the phone, we received a piece of property, basically a lot, or as open space, conforming to the Planning Commission rules that subdivisions under state statute have to provide some open space. And so the town of Old Lyme received a piece of property down off of Ferry Road from the Eklund family when they subdivided the property around the pond. We got not only a bit of upland, but also the pond, and so and that is an area in the Connecticut River Valley where migratory birds are especially prone to stop over and feed and rest and so forth. So we have made the determination that that is a piece of property that will be devoted to preservation of natural habitat. Unfortunately, a lot of the surrounding land is inhabited by invasive plant species. So our project is that to convert that piece of property. Yeah. Convert the property from an invasive species jungle to a property that will benefit the migratory birds plus other animals, frogs, turtles, insects, etc., which is part of the mandate of the Open Space Commission in Old Lyme, is to protect wildlife, and so I just wanted to. For those who don't know what we're doing, that's what we are.
Thank you.
I worked a few years ago with the Nature Conservancy at National Park on invasive species on the Channel Islands in the Pacific Ocean. I might have some literature or some reports on how to do it. I don't know if
well, Fred did a study for us.
Okay.
Remember on invasives, that was, and he's working with Anna, but the more the merrier, that would be great.
Yeah, if you have some insight.
Yeah, I have to look, and I can pass it to Fred.
Sure.
Okay.
The Nature Conservancy has done a lot of restoration.
Oh, yeah.
All over the country.
Oh, absolutely. And the world.
And the world.
They are working on some places, that I didn't know even.
Okay.
Yeah.
I skipped myself on miscellaneous. I have the odds and ends.
No.
And I just want to mention a couple of things that I've received over the last month. One was an email from the Planning Commission. They're going to amend the subdivision regs, but it has to do with roadways, fire protection in subdivisions, nothing that affects us. Mm-hmm. But I just wanted you to be aware of it, and we will respond to that. Audubon is doing a walk on the McCulloch property on 4/14. If anyone's interested, there is a charge for this, but I want you to know that it's a charge that benefits Audubon. We do not charge for anyone using our open space, but it is there. And I understand the senior center is planning a walk, I believe, on McCulloch. I don't have that date. We sent out a little memo, I think it was in the Selectmen's, and it might have been on Limelight, about the Lord's Meadow open space. We have a little parking area and a walkway that connects to Lay Allen, and owned by the Land Trust. And at this point, Lord's Meadow is being developed. They've got a lot of concrete trucks there that have a site problem. And so they've asked that we please not park on the roads, that, limit ourselves to the appointed parking. It's a temporary thing, but I think, we can all work this out. So everyone seems to be pleased.
Get their foundations poured, that little issue will hopefully go away.
I attended the Economic Forum that was held March 19th here, and there were heads of a lot of commissions, people from town spoke. It was very nice. I just want to say almost every one of the people said we need more open space. So it was very positive in our favor. And then I want to just mention the Lyme Old Lyme magazine, which features Andrea Fenton, our eco-warrior. So if you have a chance to read about that would be great. And on next month's agenda, I just want to make you aware that John Noyes had contacted me, and he had donated the noise tract, which is part of Ames, and he wanted to put a little history and maybe get a little recognition for him. So I said in the May meeting he was going to come, just to give you a heads up.
Was that John or his father?
He said he did.
Okay.
So I'm not going to argue with him.
No,
I said, okay.
I knew.
You know, give us your facts. He's also doing some research for us. John is president of this Old Lyme Historical Society, and he's doing some research trying to find Eklund Pond when it became a pond.
Oh.
And he thinks it might relate back to the mid-1800s, the railroad.
Really?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So he's researched, he's got the staff working on it, so that's very good.
Okay.
And I just want to remind all of us, we have a kindness committee in town, and we all are volunteers. We work with, you know, people in all these different offices, and it's important that we all work together. We may agree to disagree, but we still need to remember kindness. So I think that's all that I have, and now we can go to Andrea.
Okay, so we're going to basically table the Ann's report.
I think so. We did pass it out. Didn't it go out in the? It went out in the.
Yeah.
In the with the agenda.
But I think we can move the discussion. If there's any discussion, we can move it to the next meeting.
Yes, I do too. Thank you. Okay.
So, Andrea, you have the floor.
April 3rd, I sent pictures out of the work party that Jim provided the incredible wood for, and Wayne had also helped earlier on in February on a wicked cold day to pre-drill and mark the holes, and then about 8 environmental club members and a handful of us went out on the Ames property to put together 3 footbridges that were about 8 feet in length, 3 feet wide. And if you haven't been on it yet, it covers over a mucky area, and it's substantial wood and beautifully done. And
nice and wide too.
To the commission, and the high school posted it on their blog as well.
Yeah, they are substantial.
They are.
Able to hold one of the planks.
Yeah, we carried the planks in, and that's.
I would like to commend Andrea for her coordination of that. It just the day went really smoothly. And I have 3 neighbors who are in high school that joined in the process, and I thanked them for doing it. And they said we had a lot of fun, other than the fact that we got a little muddy.
That's part of the fun.
Do you have any more dates planned?
No, I think the Environmental Club has their agenda for virtually May, because June is graduation. So I think it would be up to us to identify projects that we want done, and then it would be determining when those would be, and I would coordinate with Heather Freed, the Science Department Environmental Chair, Club Chair, and would recommend that December and January and partly February.
Yeah, don't worry.
If there's some indoor bird building, bat houses, that would be appropriate, but doing work outside is just too weather dependent and cold.
Can I ask you just a quick question? It's kind of, if Evan or Andrea, either side of you might answer. On the Bartholomew Bridge, is it a Girl Scout and her dad? Are they able to do that? Are they going to need help for doing that?
It's up to them.
Materials or whatever?
It's up to them if they want to put together a group. That's up for them to do.
Is the church group still working with them? Or
No.
They never.
Oh, they never connected. Okay. There's something separate.
But I think that's part of her responsibility. If she needs coordination, that she will reach out, whether it's to friends, individuals, perhaps people from the Environmental Club. But I think it's going to be mostly her and her father.
Yeah.
Did you point out that we have wood available on, you know, if she needs some, she might, you know, let us know, because we have some on the
I'll let her know.
Cullen farm. Yeah, just rather than buy, because there's a lot of boards and logs and stuff like that.
Okay.
And one of the things that the Wetlands Commission, the questions was, would they need to have equipment for digging post holes and that sort of thing, and I didn't think that they would, but one of the reasons that they didn't like the swing bridge, the suspension bridge idea, was that they thought that it would need to have a backhoe come in and dig deeper holes than somebody would be able to do by hand. So
I'm just the connector.
yeah, middle person.
Yes.
Well, just mention that we have some equipment and, you know, wood available, and if they want to get in touch with us with that, you know. And you've got Jim's number too, so.
Yeah.
And Wayne, so, you know, whatever you want to do. That's great. So basically, they have no time for us until we have a project for in the fall, because everything is, they're booked now. Okay, just want to make sure that.
So likewise, and Peter Norris, this goes out to, that if there are bridges or, trail maintenance, invasive species clearings, stone wall building to some extent, or there was some conversation maybe with you and the Kitchings over the yellow trail behind it. You know, if there's an updated status and communicate with them, then that could be something programmed and scheduled.
We might have some invasive on a property, so that's why I was curious if they had any time. But,
Yeah.
Okay. But you also have the church group too. We could use if we needed to.
If we needed them.
So okay, I'll have a better idea after this weekend, I think. So okay, thank you, Andrea.
Okay. The only Inland Wetlands Commission report that I have that corresponds with our commission is the approval of two things. One was the spillway at Jimmy's Pond next to Rook Meadow, and which was approved as. And the only reason that we needed to go to the Wetlands Commission for a permit was that that Jim was going to use some equipment to move the stones and regrade and so forth. And so the Wetlands Enforcement Agent Dan Barrett said that since he was going to use some motorized equipment, that we ought to apply for a permit, so we did. It was approved. The other permit, obviously, we just talked about was the bridge at the Bartholomew property, and that's they turned down our bridge concept, or it was actually Ally's bridge concept, which was a suspension bridge, which I thought would be less invasive of the...
And all because it would require potentially...
But it would require some pretty substantial end posts.
Right, well, I'll leave it to them to contact Dan, and they could discuss it and see where it goes from there, I guess.
So, but they did say that they would approve the alternate design, which was the wooden bridge. So...
Did you want to mention that? For the minutes.
And just that I think there was some... I mentioned that we had the site walk with the wetland site walk that was attended by a neighbor and by members of this commission because of the adjacent property that we are working on, And so, but nobody really was allowed to say anything at the site walk, which includes members of the Wetlands Commission can ask questions, but other than that, there are some proscribed rules prescribing how much conversation can go on at a site walk. So, that was a site walk on a building lot with a proposed house and septic system, and with it that has wetlands on it. So that's all I have to say on that.
Okay. And then
Gary?
In partnership with DEEP, we loaded 800 alewives into Black Hall Pond last week, I guess it was. And we plan to load another 800 to a couple thousand in the next week. What we're trying to do is restore alewives to that pond. So I've talked to a gentleman who's been around for 65 years, and he said at one time the whole pond was alive with alewives. I'm not sure what happened, but I've heard that when the highway went through, the culvert was, the alewives could not get back up the culvert. Now, alewives are not like salmon; they can't jump, so they got to have a couple inches of water to get into. I just got into this book recently.
Oh, that's
Great
very
book if you're interested in the river and stuff like that. Just so happens there's 2 articles in here. One is about the alewives testing in Rogers Lake. And I was there. We loaded 8,000, the DEEP loaded 8,000 alewives, I think it was last Friday, into Rogers Lake, and a dozen people from Yale. They're doing a one-of-a-kind study. There's landlocked alewives, and there's alewives that travel out to sea for 3 to 5 years and come back. Well, they don't know if they interbreed or what makes them stay. So that's a big study. It's going. If you're interested in that, it's in here. The other thing in here is about Phragmites and how to get rid of them. You guys
better read that one.
Yeah.
I'd like to get the book back sometime.
Okay.
That's a magazine subscription. Dick Shriver writes it. He wrote
Yes.
it.
In
So
paper and online.
So
I think it's $20. Right. It comes out
it's 40.
Oh, is it 40?
Copy's
Not
40, digital's 20. So
Oh.
I looked at it and said, not for me. So.
Yeah.
Okay, the other thing we got going is with the Old Lyme Environmental Club, they're building 2 bat boxes for us. And I had the Dr. Fraser, the state DEEP mammalogist, expert on bats. Okay, I had her down here, and she spent a whole day with us walking at open space and land trust. And we found multiple places to put bat boxes. The 2 best ones are Rook's Meadow. I need to get your permission. It'd be about 30 yards to the right of the birdhouse.
It won't interfere with the bluebird boxes or the other things?
No.
Okay. Okay, I don't know. I thought I'm asking.
So,
No, the bats come out at night and the birds.
they got different time schedules. So the other place is behind the school, and Heather Freed, who's the biology teacher at school, is fantastic lady. If you ever hear that name or talk to her, she does everything with those kids. She does it on her own time, and I don't know where she lives, but she comes here on Saturday and Sunday to do this kind of work. So she's got to get permission for us to put in that box there. Now we still have to get the poles and get somebody to do the work to install them. So if anybody's interested in that, let me know.
We may have some polls for you.
Okay.
Oh, do you have some poles
They gotta
up
be
from
about-
the bluebird boxes?
They got to be about 10 or 12 feet because they want them 10 feet high and 2 feet in the ground. So I don't know. I was thinking maybe we get an old cedar, get Jim.
We have a bunch of dead cedar trees up in the hollow.
We just have to make sure that no predators can get up there. So
You put that cone on it?
put a cone or something on it. Yeah. The other thing that we're doing with 2 high school seniors for the senior project, they're building 2 owl nest boxes. And those things are about this big, that big, and weigh about 30 pounds. So they're going to try to put them, they've got locations where they want to put them, and I'm just telling them, you build them, you put them wherever you want. We'll have to get you permission, and they're looking at a couple spots on land trust property. So.
Was Joel Atwater running some things on owls?
Oh, he does these owl prowls.
Yeah, I was thinking, did you check with him if he had any suggestions?
Actually, I have checked with him, but he hadn't gotten back to me.
Oh, okay.
I actually asked him if he wanted to do some kind of research project on the Black Hall, because we're putting all those fish in there. It's a 5-star restaurant. All the osprey, all those fish-eating birds. So to me, if this thing goes, that whole Black Hall watershed is going to be the Conservation Commission's love child, okay? There's so much we can do there.
60s are back.
And the fish and everything, so.
Well, it's the largest watershed within the town of Old Lyme. And so it's very important that, and it provides a good deal of the water supply for the town. Mm-hmm. And so it's something that the Conservation Commission is well worth their time.
So to go along with that, we're thinking we're going to do samples of the Black Hall. Maybe 4 samples at 10 times a year, something like that, to see if there's any pollutants or anything getting in the Black Hall that we might be able to correct if it was. So.
Would that be in conjunction with the River Conservancy here?
It could be. They don't have any money, so I got to find some money somewhere. To go along with our Alewife project, Kevin Job, who's the state fish biologist, is trying to get Yale to move part of their study over to the Black Hall. And if that happens, we'll be able to study the successfulness of the alewives re-establishing in there. We'll also do chemistry all the way down to see how the chemistry changes over the time as you start getting 10,000 fish up there in that pond. You got something else going on there. So it's just totally interesting for me. And Steve Gephardt he's a retired biologist, fish guy, and he's doing all the work with Yale as a consultant in Rogers Lake. And we're hoping he'll come over into Black Hall Pond.
Did I see somewhere, all the emails that go by in the month, that you were working with Ann on Ferry Road for water testing or something? Did I see something like that?
Not for water.
Or what was that?
I was trying to figure out, on Ferry Road at 314, there's a foundation there, a barn foundation.
Oh, yeah.
And by looking at the chisel marks on the stone, you could tell it was back in Civil War time, and I found one stone that was colonial, but I haven't been able to get anybody to pay attention to that.
You might ask the Historical Society. They might be interested. I thought you were working on, what was that water? I can't remember the terms. Spoonapalooza or something like that.
Oh, Samplepalooza. I did.
Sample, yes. Okay.
Last year I took a sample from Route 156 on the Lieutenant River, from the center of that bridge. I took a water sample, and the River Conservancy did a sample test, and what we got our nitrogen was okay, our phosphorus was high. And they're telling me that probably what they call that is feedback from the Connecticut River. So that really wasn't a good place to be taking a sample.
Oh, okay. So you're not, but that was just a one-shot deal.
To take it, but it wasn't a good spot.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I see interested people over. Anybody got any questions? Okay.
Okay, thanks, Gary.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Got a question.
Really in a historical note, in one of Croatsky's books, It's Not Fall, something about fish, forgot the title. He describes a man in 1850 took a barrel of alewives from New England, took them to San Francisco Bay, dumped them in the bay, and there's an alewife run now. In San Francisco. So there's
Interesting. I'll check that out with a fish biologist next time.
It's either Commodore or something about the something fish. I can't remember. It's one of those two titles.
Because
that happened all over the country. They built striped bass when they built the Hoover Dam and one at the other end of the Grand Canyon, and they've got striped bass this big in the reservoirs. So it never had Colorado River never had striped bass.
Any other questions, comments, or anything? Thank you, Gary.
Okay, under new business, we have a proposal for the use of open space trails by horses, and we wonder if we have anybody on the phone.
I'm going to just talk for a few minutes.
Okay, yeah.
Then we're open.
Yeah, and Amanda wants to say a few words as an introduction to this proposal.
I was involved with the McCulloch purchase and worked with the family and the Vassiloff Abraham's family and the Holland family and the attorneys. And so I just want to give people who don't know a little background. This was a farm, Warren and Rook McCulloch added a number of parcels together. It was a large farm. They had horseback riding. The farm had everything on it. And then at one point, the property was divided among the three children. And the three children put a conservation easement with the Nature Conservancy on this property. So when we purchased the property, we dealt with not only the family, we dealt with the Nature Conservancy. The three children had their own interests in the property, and one of them, you may be aware, was Mary Jean Vassiloff, who ran a Morgan horse farm on her portion of it, and opened it to the public for a number of years, and people would come ride there. The horses rode on the trails, and so it's quite common on some of the trails to see horses. So, as I said, the town purchased 311 acres from the McCulloch LLC, and the Vassiloff, Mary Jean's grandchildren, now are owners of the farm, their portion, and they are selling it, and they have an interested buyer who has approached. Evan and I met with them, the Tevis family, a couple of weeks ago, and they are interested in using the barn and having a private horse association use the trails on not only on Vassiloff, but on the McCulloch, which is the town property. So I think they're on the phone now.
We're on the phone.
Okay, so I don't know if you want to have them do their presentation and then hear comments from the audience.
Yeah, I think that would be just to let Amanda, if you and
her name is Amanda Tevis, so it's going to be a little confusing here.
Or if the two of you want to sort of flesh out the proposal, and then if there are any comments from the commission and the assembled audience, we can have a discussion.
I just want to mention to the board members, we did send the packet to you all, so in lieu of, time to read it, because we have a packed agenda, so you do have the documents that the Tevises gave us. So go ahead, please.
Okay, well, thank you all so much for going through this with us. It's on Mike's computer. So what we have in front of us is more or less the bullet points that maybe everybody's got. And we'll just maybe walk everybody through it. Amanda, does that sound good?
Yeah, that sounds fine.
Okay. Go ahead, love.
Hi, I'm Mike, and amazingly nobody else is named Mike, at least I think, in the immediate group, but there's always multiple Amandas, so we'll try not to use it.
You're so lucky.
We've got one Mike.
Yeah, we have Mike and Amanda on the commission.
Perfect.
So the proposal is to make a very limited arrangement with the town through use of a lease, which would be a non-exclusive lease of the 312 acres to allow our family and a few friends that are going to keep their horses at the farm to ride on the trails. And we've put together a proposal. I think Evan and Amanda were kind enough to meet with us and sort of summarize any of the potential concerns that they thought that the town might have relative to that type of a use. And so we've tried to address those sort of on a one-by-one basis. So I'll just basically walk through it, and then we can certainly field questions once we get through it. So the request is that as the neighboring property owner and sort of the inheritor of the original farm property, we would have a right to ride on the open space land, the 312 acres that's now owned by the town. And so, the way we sort of go through our checklist is, does the zoning allow it? And to our knowledge, the zoning does allow trail riding and horseback riding. Does the conservation easement allow it? We've reviewed the document, as has council, and we've concluded that the conservation easement does specifically allow trail riding. And there was a question about liability, which I think is covered by Connecticut statutes, but specific to us having a lease on the property, which would be much more limited in scope than, opening up the trails wide open to people. We would provide an insurance policy that would list the town as additional insured, and we would make sure to execute an indemnity agreement between our entity that would hold the town harmless and indemnify the town in the event anybody was hurt. But we would also have that same indemnity agreement signed by any of the riders that are involved on our side. So just trying to be careful to make sure that we don't have any unexpected results from what seems like a simple, straightforward proposal in the front. We would keep the horse number not to exceed 12. So I know that I think we were told there were 30 or 40 horses at some points in time on when it was a Morgan horse farm. We're not endeavoring to make it that large of a farm. There may be some other farm animals and chickens and whatnot out there, but they're not going to meander onto the trails, we hope. We'd structure the proposal as a 99-year non-exclusive ground lease, and there'd be one renewal option, and there would be compensation of starting at $2,400 a year payable to the town. We would ask the town to donate that money to open space, but I suppose the town's the owner, so they've got to do with the rent what they want to do with the rent, but that's our request. Just to be clear, we're not going to bring anybody with trailers onto the property. It's going to be horses that are domiciled on the property that are riding the trails, and that's frankly a big deal for us, and so we're trying to use it sort of within a bit the way that it was used over the many years.
Well, and I think it's important to say that Anna would be our neighbor, and she, we want to be respectful of her privacy and right to sort of quiet enjoyment as well. Yeah, so there are a whole myriad of complicated access issues that we're working through with respect to the property, and are working with Anna on that as well, which we feel confident we're going to get worked out. We certainly want to contribute and participate both financially and physically in terms of keeping an eye on the trails, being active.
You know, when trees fall and things happen, it's always good to have a set of eyes on them, and we would certainly be around the property and on the property often. And so I think that we're interested in doing that, and I'm certainly interested in volunteering to assist with Wayne as a steward. And I'm not a young guy. I'm 61, and Jimmy's got a few years on me, so he's, you know, it might be a good time to have an assistant to Jimmy to learn the ropes and then, you know, continue on the stewardship. I know horse manure was an issue, and as been mentioned by some, we'll remove the horse manure from the trails and just make sure that that ends up not being an issue for people. And then I think education is a big deal. There is a lot of information online, but we would certainly be willing to place signage at any of the entrance points to the trails, as well as maybe do some YouTubes and things like that that talk about how to safely interact between dogs, bikers, hikers, and people on horses. And what's the expression, love?
Shared trails.
No, but you have a 3-word expression that you said is a good one too. I can't remember what that's called.
You mean
speak?
You mean in terms of how?
It's not written in there, but you had something that you said.
Oh well, you just basically stop. The idea is that I just didn't want people to feel that bikes and horses and dogs and even, you know, much slower walkers, all of those user groups are very compatible on trails, and there's lots of examples of it. So I just wanted to make sure that people on the committee and the commission and the town in general understood that we completely embrace all the user groups, and it's really nice to see neighbors enjoying trails the way they want to, and it is not an issue from our perspective on horseback. I mean, we've been riding on shared trails for decades, so that is actually a plus from our perspective.
So the trail signage and education is, I've sort of touched on. We have worked out an arrangement with Marcia and Wayne to be able to ride on their property, which would provide a little bit of additional acreage. And Anna, who will potentially be our new neighbor, we've not worked out anything with her yet, but we haven't really asked her. So we're hopeful that we'll be able to loop around behind the ponds. But even without that, this will still be a very viable arrangement. You know, I don't know that we want to go through all the rest. There's a very great letter from Marcia and Wayne and one from Shauna and Jesse. We've got examples of trail signage. Obviously, that's just a working example. We have a letter of intent for the ground lease, which, you know, typically if this were approved, and that's what we're hoping is that you as a committee approve this to go on to the first selectman and then on to council. We would work with our council through the documentation, but having a format for the ground lease is always helpful. And then the site map just shows that the Vasiloff property is kind of the, you know, the center of the wheel, and the town property sort of envelops it. So it's, we think, very logical, and certainly not a stretch to say that we would be the limited group using it unless there was a, you know, long change by the town. We did ask our council to make sure that we were not missing something in terms of zoning or interpretation of the Nature Conservancy easement, and they, in fact, reviewed the documents and confirmed that our opinion is at least correct and reasonable, and they don't see any reason that, in fact, since it's completely spelled out in the conservation easement, they don't even feel like, other than a courtesy letter, the Nature Conservancy would have much to say about it. And we would certainly want to, just the same way we've come to you all and asked for permission and for a working arrangement, we would certainly want to make sure that we gave notice to the Nature Conservancy. But we don't see any reason that there would be a modification any more than any modification needed on our acquisition of the Vassiloff property, which is subject to the same easement other than the legal description of what it encumbers. And then I put a ground rent schedule. So if you all have any questions, we're certainly happy to field those. And we really, I started out the letter of intent saying we want to have an arrangement where we're good neighbors, and we are believers in open space. We're conservationists. We are real estate investors and tend to save old buildings rather than demolish them. And so I think we're all pulling in the same direction, at least we hope so. And we're very, needless to say, very excited about becoming neighbors and members of this incredible, cool old town, old Lyme. So I'll leave it to you all to ask any questions you might have.
I have it's Amanda, the other Amanda. I was just wondering if Amanda could maybe talk about the horse group that she's in now that uses, that rides on private property. Yeah. Tell how the commission and the people in the audience, your number and the idea of what you do now, just to give them an idea.
That's a great point. I currently ride with Johnny Edwards at Lord Creek in Lyme, and the property that we ride on goes from Old Lyme to Lyme. It includes Old Lyme Land Trust property as well as 5 or 6 private property family-owned. I'd say the total acreage might be about 600. So it's we all sign a document, and we, it's a
membership document and an indemnity.
Yeah,
document, right?
Exactly. It is a Lyme Horse Trails Association, and I think it's $25 and up, depending on how many horses and how many people in your family are riding. And it is, it's about a 4-page document, and it is an amazing experience. It's really therapeutic for people that are in the group to ride together, and we come across dogs and hikers and walkers, slow and fast, and we're very responsible about the trail and keeping it up to, we sort of report back to one of the family has a steward, Bob, and we chat with him about what's going on. It's such a great experience. Honestly, I feel so grateful to ride there. And there's about 5 of us. I would say no more than 5 at the same time. I think Johnny only has 6 horses, and one might be lame sometimes. So, I don't think there's more than 5 or 6 at the same time. But it's a close-knit group, and we have a great time, and it's really lovely. I'm very, very honored to be a part of it.
What is the arrangement with the land trust? Is that on the Lohman property?
That's on the Lohman property, and then it goes all the way up to Tinker Lane. Yeah. So, and maybe a little bit beyond that, but it extends quite a few miles up there. And the Merrills, the Whalens, those are the 2 names that come to mind. I think, and there's at least 4 or 5 other families. Right. And it started with Janie Davidson, and I'm sure Evan knows more, probably has forgotten more about this whole thing than I know. But it definitely was the hope from her perspective that horses remain, because, they keep a town bucolic, and I really share that view. So yeah, I think all those families are very supportive. Most of it is on trails. And sometimes we go across the driveway, and if there's horse manure on the driveway, we go pick it up. Otherwise, the horse manure is not an issue there, but of course, Mike and I and all of my friends that would be riding with us and my family certainly would do anything that accommodates the Old Lyme Trail user, whatever the issues are. There's always going to be a difference of opinion on that, and it's no big deal to hop off, and set it aside. So.
Good. Well, thanks, Amanda. I think there are a couple of other members of the commission that have questions or comments.
Yeah.
So, Claudio, you?
Yes. Well, if I understood well, you are requesting an agreement of 99 years. Is that correct? It comes to my mind that maybe it should be a transitional period where we can evaluate how this agreement could be. My idea would be maybe to sign kind of a transition agreement 1 to 3 years maybe. It's just an idea, and see how it goes, how it works really, that interaction. I don't have any big problems on having horseback riding on the trails, but I'm a little concerned about how the interaction with hikers and dogs and everything else is going to work.
So you're talking about an interim period?
During evaluation period.
Well, I think a 99-year lease is pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I address that?
Sure. Go ahead, Mike.
So I'm a king of stealing ideas, and so my wife is laughing because most of her good ideas I've stolen, and then I've repackaged them as though they were my own. Walgreens drugstore is a big company, and they often do 75 to 99-year ground leases on the properties that they acquire, and then they end up having a cancellation right after a period of time. It's not typically the landlord's right to cancel, it's the tenant's right to cancel, but they have a firm term on a lease. And I think that, I don't think that we have a problem giving the town some sort of a one-time right to cancel the lease at the end of 3 years. But I think that I'm always cautious and frankly a little bit nervous about an agreement to agree. So we'd have to come up with some language that would generate cause, because we're acquiring the land next door, the whole farm, and we'll be well invested in renovating the farm and creating a horse farm for our own family and our friends' use. And then to have the right to ride canceled would sort of defeat the whole purpose of getting the farm, because as those of you who ride horses know, it doesn't take long to cover 50 acres on horseback. So that'd just be one big loop. So I think it's cumbersome. I'm not saying that we would say no, but I think it would be a very tight constraint of causal relationship that would give the town the right to terminate. But it would be, it would have to be not unreasonable, and it would have to be with cause, and a lot of. It creates complications.
But in concept, we understand why that sounds like a good idea, because you want to get to know us and make sure that what we're saying is what we're going to do. So I think that we, like Mike said, if we could narrow it to things that you really wanted to see happen and we were responsible for, then that's a great idea. If it's a scenario where we don't know what we're trying to solve for, and then we get kicked out, that would be tough, given our investment. And we love the Vaslov family. We really want to do this and be a neighbor and be a part of the community. That said, the sort of heart of it is horseback riding. Or else I think we could, be a part of the community somewhere else, smaller property, and just go hiking if that's what it was about. But it's not. And so I think it's really important that we're clear about that. And we very much want to be Anna's neighbor, and we feel a little bit like we're a needle in a haystack because all the complications that go on with this property are really not complications for us. But this one piece of it, we really hope we can work through because it is so central to the way we want to spend time there. And so I hear you. It's a good idea in concept if we can figure out a way that we know in what way would we be misstepping so that we could make sure we didn't, because if all you guys are no longer on the commission and we're dealing with other people, how do we make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing? But it's a good idea as long as we can narrow it down. We're open to it.
I just want to give everybody else an opportunity to talk. Does any other commission member have any questions or anything? Shall we open it up to the public? If the public would like to.
I'd like to say something.
Okay.
The paragraph of the Nature Conservancy article, which states what the family wanted for the Nature Conservancy, what our wishes were. The town's management of the property and leases allowed thereon are subject to the conservation restriction in favor of the Nature Conservancy of Connecticut Incorporated. The conservation restriction limits the allowable uses of the property to uses that are consistent with significant conservation interests. However, pursuant to Section 4.1 of the conservation restriction, the grantor reserves certain rights, including the right to engage in outdoor recreational activities, including by way of illustration and not limitation, bicycle riding, walking, horseback riding, cross-country skiing, fishing and camping don't go along with it because the Lincoln was involved. It says in 2019 the town acquired fee simple ownership of the property, including those rights reserved by the grantor in the conservation restriction. Therefore, the town has the right to authorize the use of the property so long as it's conducted in a manner that otherwise complies with the town's open space plan and the conservation restriction. So it's always been very important for the horses to have use of this property when this was created. It was, Jean loved horses more than people. I mean, I don't know if you knew her.
Sometimes that's a good thing.
She carried her wishes forward. There aren't many of us left. And the Teepuses are super people, and they have the resources to make this place whole again and to share this beautiful area, and get involved with the town, the kind of people that this town needs and should want. And I don't think that they would ever take advantage of us letting a few, a couple days a week, a horse ride in the woods.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Marcia. I appreciate that. Go ahead.
I have a quick question. Hi, this is Greg, Mike and Amanda. You've studied this and you've had counsel look at it. My question would be and you seem like you would be great neighbors. I appreciate you talking about all the various problems and the ways that you might address any concerns people would have. Would you view the lease and your arrangement with us as providing exclusive use for your horses on the property, or by allowing you to use the property, would other people be able to pull up a trailer, for example, into Tree in the Gap and unload a horse and ride the horse on the property?
No, I think very specifically what we're trying to do is not make a global policy decision for the town right now. We're trying to make a very small, honestly, we think almost you'll never notice it, decision for the town, whereby only our group and our people are allowed. People are not trailering in. We've talked with Anna about that. We don't want horse trailers coming in from elsewhere. We're going to have, 5 to 10 horses that are going to live on the property, and we'll ride from the property. And it's simply, a family horse farm / farm that is used by us, and if on a more global basis the town wants to address a more global decision about riding on town land, then that would be a completely separate decision. And that's the reason we proposed to create a business relationship that's documented in a very traditional document, a long-term ground lease that's non-exclusive, so we don't have the only right to ride horses. If you want to change it down the road, great. Then people can go and park their trailers somewhere in a spot 10 years from now. If the town changes, that's up to the town. We're not asking for that. And additionally, we're trying to set it up such that our membership, while we can't really mandate it, we're going to have everybody participate in the town, making donations to the Conservation Commission, trying to really be participants in the town and as part of the open space. This is a really big deal for us to continue to maintain open space, but it's also a big deal for us to maintain open space for horseback riding because it's an entity that gets pushed out. So I don't know if that answers your question or not, but that was what we were thinking.
Anyone else from the...
I would like to say something. Hi, my name is Sean Bassloff. I'm Mary Lee Bassloff's granddaughter, and my brother Jesse is her grandson. We are currently both of us are the owners. We inherited the property as both of our uncle and father have passed. And I must say, we grew up on the farm. It is in our heart. And quite frankly, Jesse and I have our life for our own. And for these people to come in, sorry to be emotional.
That's all right. I'm sure it is.
But these people to come in that have the care and the utmost for the property, they really, truly, honestly, you want to make sure that this works out.
Well, I'm sure you, as you said, you grew up, you've experienced it, and it's a wonderful piece of property. The town was lucky to get the adjoining piece. So, we'll take that all into consideration, but thank you. It just shows you care when you get...
And also, if it's not allowed, we're left with this big, all these farms, and it's not real pretty for people as a prospective buyer.
Right.
And, it's like the conservation, selling David's property, it's his property, he can do what he wants, but it used to be this 500-acre farm that was free and wild, in many different ways. And now it's like this small little area that the general public, if they can't ride, what are they going to do there?
I just want to mention that when I was riding in Wayne's Jeep with Marcia and Dave and everybody else, and if you know Wayne, he's got a big board with the map of the farm on it. And when we were trying to connect the three pieces of Dave's, there was no way we could do it until the Vassiloffs agreed to do a swap to connect the pieces. So when we do our trails, and the Nature Conservancy, I don't want to downplay them, but they had very tight restrictions on us. So even though we did the swap, we were only allowed 3 trails on that property. And that's all that the town has. So I think that working with this question of whether to allow horses, it needs to be specific to what trails, if it's all of the trails, if we're not allowing on certain trails. So those are concerns. So if we agreed to do horseback riding, the trail system we have in place, and if we allow it on all the trails, or Rooks Meadow, would have to be respected. Because
that's a great idea.
I'm not getting the phone call from TNC saying there's somebody riding that's not on the trail. So that needs to be understood, because they come down, we go through a walk with them every year, and
they
pretty
monitor,
often. They monitor it. Just like they monitor Anna's and the Vassiloff. Mm-hmm. So it's very specific, and they go by the letter of the law. So that's one thing we want to make clear, and that's one of the reasons that after the discussion today, our thought, and Wayne and the rest of us, is to move this on to council so they can review it. Because we have the ideas, but they know the law. And we've now dealt with Nature Conservancy for 2 years doing that conservation modification. And the legal review, all of these documents, and I did mention it to Amanda and Mike, would not come out of open space funds. This would be, our attorney will look at the packet, and he's going to say what he needs for a deposit to review these, so the town would not be reviewing and paying for this review. Yes.
I just had a quick question. I don't know the answer to this, but I want to toss it out. If everybody's amenable to the plan and we want to proceed with the lease in whatever fashion, would this be an issue that would have to go for the Board of Selectmen? Would the first selectman be the signatory to that, or how would that work?
I think that they would, but first they need to get the legal advice to see it. And so, does anyone else have any questions or comments they'd like to make? I don't know if the Land Trust wants to comment on the use of the horses on Lomans.
I don't know that we've been contacted formally. I guess that my question is, can they access what I call both sides of McCulloch without going on the Land Trust property?
Yeah, I was going to mention that the trails do cross your property. We're talking to Suzanne, Colton, Carey, Mike, and Amanda, who's here representing the Land Trust.
Oh, okay, great.
But I'm wondering, they have the land in between both sides of yours, so they might not need it. I have some, well, the board briefly discussed it. They're going to talk to an attorney also. But there are some concerns that we have a very narrow, steep trail. And what's going to happen when a horse is coming up and the bike is going down. And our trails are not wide.
They are, but the other thing, because Sabine, who's president of the Land Trust, has been emailing Evan and I. Mm-hmm. And because Marcia had said that she was going to allow horseback riding on their property, because when we did the SWAT piece, there was like a 46 or 50 acre piece that went to you guys, so, and it would connect to there, and maybe there was a possibility of a trail up farther. I don't know, because that's yours, but I just wanted to point out that it does connect, and they can go up and around. And there's also, when we purchased the McCulloch portion, there was a lease created for the benefit of the Vassilos for a trail that may loop in and avoid tie-in to the red and the green without going over yours. That would have to be reviewed. So that
was my intention.
Yeah, because they go underneath, that trail goes underneath the transmission lines. Isn't that right, Wayne?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think that would connect. I think, we'd have to look at it.
I think it would.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have to.
But we have to make sure we're not making any new trails, because it's not.
If you look at the Land Trust in Old Lyme, it says horses are allowed there. On the rules of the Land Trust, Old Lyme Land Trust.
I don't think so. I mean, I know they are on
I think I have it right here.
We haven't, when the McCullochs were there, they occasionally ran events online.
Uh-huh.
And they would put up signs and they would be marked, they're going to be horses.
I think that's something that you all can review. That's a Land Trust, that's not Open Space Commission.
Yeah, I think it's from some comments on before the trails, I believe, for safety reasons. I very pro.
They are very narrow.
But it has to be wide enough. Yeah. And I don't know if there's going to be some rule or something that we can check how wide should be. But it cannot be a narrow path.
And
because it's very
Well,
dangerous.
I can speak to the Lime Trails Association, who uses the old Davison property up in Lime that Amanda was talking about earlier. And those trails are maintained by the Lime Trails Association, and they they actually share with one of the private landowners a fellow who maintains the trails, and but they are a little wider than the trails on, but they're very well maintained, and the Lime Trails Association also has walking members, who are not riders, but they, in order to access the property and help maintain the trails, you buy into the membership, and it seems to work very well. I'm not aware of any real conflicts. I walk there on occasion. My wife walks there frequently. She used to ride there, but now she just walks, and so it seems to me something that I think there can be some accommodation,
right,
to a certain extent.
Yeah, sure.
I just have a couple of comments, and I think to Mike and Amanda, we had discussed this when we met you, and Evan and Dan and I were there. We had talked about our trails, and we had one trail, the yellow trail, which was very narrow, and we had talked about excluding that one. Is that still an option, or is that?
The thing about the narrowness is a horse can move over for someone. We don't need a trail horses don't need a trail. They can move over for anybody. They don't always need someone to yield to them. We yield to people very often. So don't feel like we can't move our horse over, and they're very used to being up against a dog or a biker or a walker. And it's kind of a nice way to meet your neighbors, because people are doing what they want to be doing to recreate, and it's really nice to cross-pollinate in that way. So I know maybe if people aren't familiar, as riders themselves, it's a very easy thing to yield with people doing different things on a horse, especially if they talk, make it clear that they're not, a predator, if they're coming behind. But we really do work through these things really nicely, and you'd be surprised how much it builds community, I feel. People love horses.
That yellow trail has major wetlands on it where you can't move over, that big pond coming down from the Cedar Meadow. There's not much room when we laid those trails out for movement, that it doesn't hit a bog or a wetlands pond or things like that. So I'm just giving you fair warning that yellow trail. And we also talked about Rook's Meadow, because that's a beautiful pollinator garden, bat, bluebird, everything. And if the horses get in there on a muddy day, they will be digging that up. And the trail that runs adjacent to it is an old woods road horse trail.
Yeah, we'll do whatever you'll allow us to do. We're the ones asking. We're not deluding ourselves that we're the tail. We know.
Okay. So
but I do want to say that with respect to logic, the more trails that we all share, the less use per user group a trail gets. The worst thing for trails is water. It isn't a horse or a dog or a bike. We avoid things when they're muddy. That just is a very typical respectful trail etiquette, idea. So, but really the way, we tend to look at it is the more trails, the less traffic per trail. But whatever you, Amanda, whatever the commission would support, we will do, and we will work with, really hard to make happen. I do just have I just wonder if I could clarify something you said about an open space modification. Was there a modification to the conservation easement that Mike and I have seen, or are you speaking of that there was a modification with regard to the cross easement of family ownership?
There was a modification when we purchased the property from McCulloch Farm LLC, I think it was, G. McCulloch, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
We had to get a modification of the conservation easement. It was agreed to by all parties, and then the town attorney and myself and the Nature Conservancy worked through it. Then we met with the Attorney General and worked through it. Then we went to the court and worked through it. Then we brought it back and had a town meeting a couple of weeks ago and got it approved at town meeting. Now the final document is being passed among all the parties to be signed. And so that's been almost 2 years. So you probably don't have a copy of it. All that does is basically allow public parking and
and public access.
Yes, for the property. So that's why you haven't seen it. It doesn't really affect you.
Because the McCulloch Farm was a private entity, and then it went to a public entity, the easement had to be modified to allow the public access to the property, because the easement in itself did not allow the public access.
Okay.
Right.
But you're not under the impression that the conservation easement isn't supportive of horseback riding on trails?
No.
Are you?
No, but we've talked about a discrepancy among the three siblings that we need to have the attorney review, and so that's one of the issues.
What is the discrepancy?
Well, we had talked, it was our understanding at the closing that the three individual farms, had the right to ride horses, but it did not reciprocate. So the Vasilovs had the right to ride horses on their property. Anna has the right to ride. David and his family had the right to ride on his, but they could not go onto the other parties.
Well, we're not asking for that.
Right. That's why we're asking for permission, because the town now, AKA, David McCulloch's property. So we wouldn't have just bought the Vasilovs' property without asking the town for permission, which is why we're all here.
Right.
So I think we're on the same page there, for sure.
Right. We are.
Yeah.
But we need to make sure the attorneys and the Nature Conservancy and the public is. So that's why we are not attorneys. We are charged with protecting and preserving open space. But these documents, your presentation, and our thoughts will go to the attorney to review next.
Can I ask one question quickly?
Sure.
So we'd like to make sure we have all the general business approvals necessary before the meter starts with the attorney. Not to say that we're not willing to do that, because of course we are, within reason. But could we get approval by the first selectman before we go and start the meter with the attorneys, mine and yours?
It's really ours and ours, because we're paying.
Ours and ours?
Yeah.
But we don't want to find out that we get it all approved and then the first selectman says, well, I don't know about this. I don't think I like it.
Well, we will certainly mention him, but if the attorney says no, why should the Board of Selectmen even review it? I think you'd want to know whether it's allowable or not.
Well, because he's free and the attorneys aren't.
Well, hey, a small price to pay, dear.
Yeah.
What happens if we go to the Board of Selectmen and everything? And we're a small town. and Tim we can talk to the Board of Selectmen, but they're going to say the same thing. The attorney needs to advise us if this is allowable.
I think if the attorney puts his stamp of approval on it, and this commission, the advice and the consensus of this commission is that yes, it is allowed. I think the Board of Selectmen will take that under advisement and make it. That's why they're commissions, so they don't have to do all of this on their time. So.
Right. Okay.
Fair enough.
Would you feel like it's a little bit more to the point to say that it's not that it wouldn't be allowed because it's clearly allowed by the easement? It's more that the town might just not want to do this. Isn't that a little bit more accurate? I mean, I'm not saying that that's not within their right. I'm just saying I'm just making a finer definition of where we are, just so we as a family can understand.
I think, unfortunately, I have to tell you, we have to be out of this room at 7. We have another issue, and then we have an executive session. I think there needs to be discussion on this among the board itself. We need to, maybe we'll bring Tim in, the selectmen, and talk about it. But it's a lot to absorb at this time, and I think the Open Space Commission will have to meet again with it, and we can bring the Board of Selectmen in. That's not a problem, and then we can go to the attorney. But I think we need time to digest all this.
It's a new subject.
It is a big change for us. We're not saying we're against it. We think it's a good idea, but I think we need time to think about it. I tell you one thing that scares me about it is a 99-year lease. Maybe it's like a 99-year mortgage. So that's a long time. So.
Isn't that what our elders had agreed upon when they did the conservation, was 99 years?
No, it's perpetuity. It's forever.
Oh, yeah.
Another way to look at it, Amanda, is it's a 99-year income stream. But, yes, these things need to be teased out. But we're here for any questions. We can come meet with, all the commissioners. We're happy to do whatever it takes. We are just trying to be very conscientious about the Vassilov family and that they would like to know, what what's going to happen with this transaction. So really, the time is of the essence for them, and that's not to put pressure on the commission. It's just simply to state the facts of life. We can certainly talk as long as anybody wants to, but I really do feel for them. They've tried to find the right entity, to be a good neighbor to Anna and Chris, and be able to have the financial wherewithal to buy the property, to responsibly deal with the town of Old Lyme. These are really tough. It's hard to find, I think, one family that fits all of those things. I hope we are that family. If possible, I would just like to say that all of us should be rowing in the same direction so that Shauna and Jesse can put this to bed and move on with their lives with the sort of satisfaction that they are honoring the legacy of their family and their grandmother. But that said, Mike and I appreciate everybody's time so much. It's 1 a.m. for us. I mean, I don't think Mike's been up this late in 5 years.
I'm not going to ask you are.
So thank you all for this, really. And any questions, we can email, phone, whatever. We're available.
Okay, well, I think the commission's going to take this under consideration, whether we go to the Board of Selectmen next, if we go to the attorney next. Mike, bring your checkbook. So I think that's where we are. I think we need to have some more discussion, and we certainly appreciate all of the audience. We realize time is of the essence, but in the same sense, we have a responsibility to the people of this town. So,
yeah, we hope the people of the town embrace horses, because if it's not a horse community, that is an issue. It's a good point you make, Amanda, because really it comes down to community, different users supporting each other. You know, I've grown up in a scenario where people were very supportive of it, and it's such a beautiful thing. But if it's not right for Old Lyme, we understand that. It's just, it has, you know, we use all the trails for all of those uses, and really want to participate in all of those ways.
Yes.
Okay, and I will caveat that I feel like the town of Old Lyme has actually benefited so much so being a horse farm with all the events and all the community things that the horse farm has done in the past. So I think, you know, as to what you're saying, I do think that this is right for the town of Old Lyme and the people.
I think it's an exciting idea, but that needs to be discussed among ourselves, the selectman and the attorney, to make sure it can all work out. We are not opposed to this idea, but we just need a little time to go through all these documents. It's a big step for the town.
Fair enough.
So that's why. So that's why, and we have two other things on our agenda, and we got to be out of here at 7. So
absolutely. Thank you so much. We appreciate it, everyone.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Just do this.
What's that?
Just say that this has been referred to the selectmen. It's going to go to executive session.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that the first?
Thank you.
We're going to
program.
Let's go. We've got
Next item.
15 minutes to get through the next.
Is this in the town library? Do you know?
I have it if you want it.
Just on the kayak launch proposal, there was a meeting with the selectmen and the Harbor Management Commission and certain members of this commission, and it's been referred to the selectmen, and will. But there's I think it's been in the press and on Facebook and enough that.
And I've recused myself.
And I want to also just if there's any discussion on it, to acknowledge that because she's a adjacent homeowner, Amanda's going to recuse herself from any discussion or anything that we've been in discussion with the selectmen, and really it's up to them. We think that the property was under the jurisdiction of the Open Space Commission because it was originally came through the Conservation Commission from the state of Connecticut, which had an open space committee at the time. But it's fuzzy, and I think it needs more discussion and more assessment and more research.
Could we schedule a meeting and look at the property and then
figure out what we're going to do? We can make a recommendation. Yeah.
You have a sign saying dogs under control. I'd like to know what you think of what that means. What we see is dogs coming from the trail to her house, jumping up on her, people walking on the trail, and the dog is zigzagging back and forth, of course, into the wood hunting. It's not really under control. If you bring horses there, I grew up on a farm where our dogs knew what horses were. These dogs weren't raised with horses, and you may have trouble there too. Anyway.
Well, I could say maybe you call the animal control person in town. If you see the dog, the owners, if you want to send us an email, and we'll contact the owners and have a discussion with them.
Would a leash law I mean,
Should,
would that,
I personally feel that dogs should be on a leash.
because there are many, I know there are many land trusts in the state, the Guilford Land Trust being one of them, that doesn't allow dogs that aren't on leashes.
But even if you put a leash law on, who's going to enforce it?
At least there's a law.
At least there is something stated, and there
Well-
are people that will follow it. And
Well,
there are always
you
people
can
that won't.
say, leash your dog, and they can't say no.
Well,
Yeah.
they
We're getting
do
people
things.
coming from Saybrook, bringing their dogs and saying, this is a great place to let them run.
Well, I think we can put it on our webpage that if you can't control your dog, then leash them.
Yeah, I don't think if the dog is off leash, it's not a big problem. Also, the vernal pools that you're talking about, one of them is the little, behind the meadow. One dog is just bursting through there.
I have seen,
the problem is dogs don't stay on the trail.
no, but I have seen many trails in other states. In Vermont, I have seen it. I have seen it in Maine, where it's clearly stated at the initiation or the beginning of the trail that the dogs have to be under leash.
Exactly.
Well, no,
So I have seen
I think, I don't know what I think our sign says, under your control.
Under control, yeah. Well, I think that's something we need to discuss and make it, I think it could be changed.
It's like people that run red lights. You know, they're not supposed to,
See,
but
Buckley
they
has
do.
the same trouble with the park. All the time, people and dogs don't mix and he's having real trouble.
Well, and
The thing to do somewhere is to set up a dog park.
Well, that's not us. Take it to another committee.
that's Park and Rec.
That's Park and Rec. No, I thank you for bringing it to our attention. We'll, as we said, we will bring it up for the next meeting, and
Dogs
and
under control.
Dogs under, you know, we just can't monitor all of that. That's the problem. So
At
anyway,
least there's a rule.
Yeah.
Right now it's under control, but if it's leash, if they must be leashed, it's a totally different thing than under control.
Yeah. No,
So if you just put a sign up, I think that that's a good way to go.
Yeah.
Okay, is there no, any additional public comments? Then we're going to go to an executive session.
Suzanne, do you have anything? Did you have anything you wanted to mention?
No, I'm just thinking here to listen to the board.
Okay.
Thank you all for coming. Thank you. Okay, do we need a motion to go into executive session?
Hey, Wayne.
Hey.
Thanks for coming.
I didn't recognize you that you had at first.
Do we need
Okay.
a motion to go into executive session?
I move that we go into executive session.
Okay, Greg,
Okay,
second.
and Garrett,
Is
second.
the machine on?
Second.
The
All
machine?
all in favor? Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne.